So we have like a little personal policy on our other channel that if I'm trying to do a video, it takes more than 3 takes, then I just do the third one and say the hell with it and let it rip. I guess I'm tongue-tied today. But yeah, so this is number 3. It is a pretty day here in South Georgia. It's cool. It's about 50 degrees, but it's been raining. Not a heavy rain, just kind of a drizzle. Be a good day to sneak through the woods, I can tell you that much. But it is the second to last day of bow season, so I am a little down there a little bit. Tomorrow I'm gonna try to hunt pretty hard. I got to get down here in a little bit, put on my men's yoga pants, and go for a run. And then I got some work I got to do. Several days ago, I was leaving the house to come hunt, and I grabbed something that I've been wanting to do a video about, and it came apart somehow. I don't know how it came apart, and it broke right there at the back steps going in the garage, and it was an hourglass. So the sand went all over the place and the glass, and I went ahead and ordered another one, and we had this one in the cabinet for years. And so last night the bride said, did you order an hourglass? I mean, she had like one eye looking at me like that, and I said, yeah, I ordered an hourglass. And I knew it was coming, like, we got one in the cabinet, dummy. And I said, whoa. I said, hey, I got that one out of the cabinet, and it lost its mind coming out the back door. It broke, She said, okay. She said, what do you need an hourglass for? And I think we've already posted this video. It's critically important, for our younger people to understand that it's really important that you marry someone who supports your mission. And I'm not talking about, your job. I'm talking about just the way you're wired, just the stuff that you do that they don't necessarily understand or get, but they're like, that's my guy or that's my girl, and that's just what their thing is, And a lot of what I do, I am fairly confident my bride does not get, probably can't even halfway digest it. But that's who I am. And she knows my core and what my core is about. And so she rolls with it. There's a lot worse things that I could be doing than buying a goofy hourglass and climbing up a tree at 20 foot and doing a video and sending it out to TV land. I mean, there's a lot worse junk than that. So I think that some of her digesting is like, whatever. But why an hourglass? Well, I've written a lot about it over the years, about sand, and I'm not necessarily a big sand guy. I like the ocean. I'm not overly fond of sand. It's kind of like a mouse. It just gets into everything, and it can be aggravating. But it's the hourglass is what it is. It's the second to last day of deer season. And, every day this week I've hunted, I'm watching the hourglass. And I could have gotten a quick little hunt yesterday evening, but I was really tired. And I was like, man, and it's just the way it's always been for me. A lot of magical junk happens out here. A lot of good grounding and, I don't know, just memories. And as we age, I got my hourglass right there. I got it strapped to the side of this tree. This is a 1 hour hourglass, so it's probably the wrong one for the video because, you're not gonna watch an hour video. I've already figured that much out. But you can kind of see the sand running down. And as we age, this becomes a big factor. Yeah, unfortunately it does. And the oldest boy asked me the other day, it just dawned on him. Somebody said something about when he was born and, when they were born. And he's like, crap, Dad, I'm 20 years old. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, can you remember being 20? And I said, I do. And I said, but it seems like yesterday. And then we talked about how fast things accelerate, and job and work and, what do you digest? You don't really internalize things. And, we talked about when he was born. And I said, when you were born, somebody hit the fast forward button fast, you know. He's like, really? And I said, it just blew. I mean, it just flew, you know. When I'm out here towards the end of season, that's what I think about. I think about the last season, the season before that, and the season before that, and the season before that. And then I'm hoping that I can see one more season, you know, because I love it out here. It's what works for me. It's where I'm at peace the most. And we live in a society today that it's all about how fast we can get there, how fast we can get it done. You plug in your GPS, fastest route. That's the first one that pops up. What's the fastest route? Only takes 10 minutes. You know, and everything is about that speed. And, you know, when I'm out here, I'm still captured by the influence of man. I got 2 cell phones. I got a watch, smart tells me I'm stupid watch, because when I look at some of the stuff it tells me, my watch tells me I'm very stupid. The deer have no concept of time, I don't think. They don't think about, you know, their life is simple. Eat, drink, cover. The predator, it's me, mankind. You know, coyotes a little bit, but for the most part, life is simple. You know, I mean, we have cameras. They eat at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. They get tired, they'll take a little curl up, take a little nap, and that's it. You know, part of what I try to do when I come out here is to mimic the life of a deer. I really do. I try to come out here and, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm up here with my bow, but like I say all the time, I ain't shot a deer here in years, you know. But I just get up here and bond with them. I try to, and mimic their life and try to slow things down. The importance, and I've written about it in several of the books, is that it's the system. We all need a system. And unfortunately, it always boils down to, I don't have time. You know, well, I need to go run, but, you know, I just don't have enough time for a run today. You know, anything that you need to do to help your squirrel cage function, anything that you need to do to feel better internally, you know, well, it's yoga. It takes, I don't do yoga, but it takes, 20 minutes. I don't have time, and we look at all these things and everything is measured by the sand. In order to keep healthy sand up on top, we need to figure out time somehow. There's a pile of junk I need to do at the house, pile of junk I need to do here on the farm. But I got to keep healthy sand up on top. And, I'm not sure if it's healthy or bad sand that runs down to the bottom, but you have to have some form of a system. And it's not necessarily just to process a traumatic event or something that weighs heavy on you. It's just to breathe. I don't like cold weather, but I like it when I breathe like that. I can feel it go in my nose. I feel like it fills up my lungs. It just feels like different air. And I can feel it all working. We live in such a fast-paced world. And I don't think we were really wired to live in a fast-paced world. I don't. And we miss out on so many moments because we are in such a hurry. And I've figured out, by mistakes, by problems, or just by luck, that in order for me to keep a lot of good, healthy sand up on top, I got to take these moments. And yeah, do I look at my watch? Yeah. Do I look at my phone? Sure. Even when I'm out here. Sometimes I wish I didn't have anything, and I just would be here and time didn't matter. But it's not reality. But try to block off time to find a way to slow things down for yourselves, and so I know after tomorrow, Saturday, season's over, you know, and it's like, wait a second, I really can't really get back in a tree with my bow until September, you know, so I got almost another 8 months. And I know what happens in that 8 months. It gets crazy. And I don't do my tree time. And then I take time to run, but my tree time is gone. And so what am I doing now? I'm sponging, pretty much. Trying to take as much in as I can and ground as much as I can. And I'm trying to keep as much sand on top that's healthy. And it's not full of glass like it was the other day. That's my video. I don't know if it makes sense, but it should. You know, we try to overcomplicate things, and we think it's got to be elaborate in order to get us wired or get us back on center or to ground us. A lot of times it's not. Yeah, there's all kinds of junk out there. You can deep breathe, you can meditate, you can do all that. And then we look at how long it takes to do it, you know? And so I say it all the time. If you had a good childhood, a lot of the things we did as a child ground us as adults. Good memories, good feelings, you know? And in order to have healthy sand on the top, you got to take the time to keep it up there. That's what I got. Not sure if it makes sense. Let me buzz you around. So we actually have two creeks on this particular bow stand here. There's a creek right down there. And it's not much of a creek, but there's another little creek there. Big clear cut over there. Planted in pines, but they're little tiny guys. And then you'll see I've got my faithful magnolia right here. Back up a little bit. There's my hourglass strap. So, don't have a lot of options up here. Don't have a shelf to put it on. I didn't want to break another one, or my bride she'd get on me. So who am I today? I'm a guy that took time to crawl up in this tree, do a video, think about a lot of stuff, reflect on a lot of memories on this property. I could sit here all day, just that ridge and that creek and this creek back there, up there in the field, whatever, it doesn't matter. I hope that the video does click for one of you. It's hard, I get it. It's hard to slow the machine down and mimic the life of a deer and just stick with your basic needs. Food, water, sleep, cover, that's it. You know, we are in a fast-paced world, and technology's made it even faster, you know, and I don't think it's always good. I really don't. And I think if you can figure out a way, and it doesn't have to be a complicated system, but just some form of a system to slow it down. And I've always said this and written it. If you embrace death in its purest form, it should make you slow down and think about things around you and not take things for granted. We get caught up in the emotions, the loss, and I get that. But when you dodge a bullet or someone very, very close to you dies, then you realize what really matters. And when I sit up here in these trees and watch the deers and turkeys and coyotes and all that, that's what I think about, what really matters, you know? At my age, spending time with the family, not trying to save the world in 2 seconds, just do the little bit I can and sponge up all this out here that God has given us. And it's a daily struggle to slow down that machine, even for me. Y'all have a great day, and I gotta get on my men's yoga pants and do my thing. Take care.